So welcome everybody. Um, Welcome to this seminar number 7. Today with us there are Marco Signore and Francesco Caruso from the Darwin Dorn Museum, which is one of the most, probably one of the most influential research institutions in the field of marine biology and ecology. Probably they will present for sure better than me, and for sure they will present ourselves better than me. But just to give you some few details before starting, the institution carries on advanced research on the biology, ecology, and evolution of the marine organisms. Today, they will present us, for sure, an interesting presentation on the sea, the oceans. I don't know perfectly the details, so I think that it will be better to start. I don't know who will start, if Marco or Francesco.
I will start.
Okay, so please, the floor is yours. You already have all the necessary permissions to share presentation, videos, and so on.
And the name of the institution is Anton Dorn Zoological Station. Our office is the museum, but we are part of the Stazione Zoologica Anton Dorn. Go, Marco.
Right, I hope you see my screen.
Yep.
All right, perfect. So what I will do today is give you a brief talk about what happens in the deep sea. This is because the deep sea during the Anthropocene is one of the most endangered and yet probably the worst known place on Earth. And even in the solar system, as far as I know, because we know much better Mars and the Moon, and we know very little about the deep sea. This is bad because deep sea is quite important for the planet. And we will discover a couple of places most of you will never imagine to find beneath our oceans. Life, as we know, started, well, probably 2 billion years ago, 3 billion years ago, and it happened in the sea. But we were, until like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we believed that life started beneath the sun on the surface of ancient seas. But during the last excavations, paleontological excavations and biomolecular studies, we discovered that most possibly life happened in the deep sea, very deep, where light from the sun did not reach. Whatever happened, it happened in an alien landscape, or I should say seascape, actually. But it is quite important to understand that we as humans have changed and still keep changing the environment in which life developed and appeared. This video I'm showing you right now, and I hope you can see it, is one of the most rare sharks in the world. Actually, it's a couple of them. This one is a female, and you may see a male beneath her. And these are called megamouth sharks, one of the only 3 sharks that eat plankton. And they are never been seen before in couple, and they are only been seen on the surface, like 5 more times. So this is quite new, and all this happened just because a boat with professional fishermen happened to be in the same place that 2 sharks were. And another interesting thing that happened because of humans is something about this incredible jellyfish, which is called Cygiomedusa, the ghost jellyfish. And this animal has been discovered more than 100 years ago and have rarely been seen. But the last time it has been seen, it was because of a touristic submarine. So actually, humans do influence the environment, the ocean environment, but they also contribute to the knowledge of it, because there is very much to discover into the deep sea, and we are only scratching the surface. As I told you, we know much better about the moon than about the sea and the abyss. We only know that from the deep sea, from the total darkness, life came up. And I studied life, especially in the beginning, because first of all, I am a paleontologist. I work as a paleontologist, but also as a museum specialist in the Darwin Dome Museum, which is part of the Stazione Zoologica Anton Dorn. I also work with music and games because I think they are quite a very good way to teach, to communicate, not to teach, but to communicate science. So I could show you quite a lot of incredible animals, just like this animal, this fish, which has a transparent skull, is not Photoshop, or this goblin shark, which is one of the most strange sharks in the world, or the vampire squid, which is my favorite animal, by the way, which is quite small, but is a very peculiar cephalopod living in the twilight zone, in that area of the ocean where light starts to dim. Or this Magnipinna squid, which is also very alien in appearance. And there are lots of quite strange animals like this viper fish as well. This is quite incredible because it sports two bright red lights beneath the eye, and the red light cannot be seen actually from other animals in the deep sea. And it also has transparent teeth, so they cannot reflect any other light. This, you may know, is a devilfish, a black devilfish, also a bioluminescent animal, and so on. You got quite a lot of different animals, quite strange in the deep sea. But deep sea is most of all a place of strange, weird environments. And this one, the hydrothermal vents, is one of the latest that happened to come to our attention, because before the 70s, we only knew they existed, but we thought they were totally devoid of life. And then in the first submersible scouting report, they happened to see life around this area. You can see in this video, ROV, that is a vehicle which is programmed from above, is controlled from a ship via a cable, and it can collect samples and take a lot of footage, thanks to which we can see places in which men could simply not go. And this is a black smoker, and it's exactly on this kind of environment, which is usually dark, that life started. And this environment is quite important because it holds secrets for something else. I will talk about it in a few minutes. It also harbors some of the most strange animals that you will ever see on Earth, like these giant tube worms that are called Riftia. They are totally dependent on bacteria. They lack a digestive system, and they work thanks to internal bacteria, which uses sulfur to give energy to the worm. This is a close-up of two kinds of worm, this Alvinella and the Riftia, the largest one. And you got also quite incredible shrimps, which are totally blind to normal light, but they can see the light emitted by black smokers. You could ask yourself, if they are black, how they can emit light. They emit special wavelengths that this kind of shrimp can actually see. And also these shrimps are dependent from bacteria, but they also can attack other animals when conditions change. You can see quite a lot of weird, strange animals that live in this environment. This environment is subject to death. And you see here discarded giant mussels, because this kind of environment depends on geological activity. And when the hotspot from the mantle moves away from this area, the whole area becomes devoid of life. The hotspot moves, and any animal who is capable of moving follows the hotspot. And this creates moving communities on the bottom of the sea. This is a close-up of the same mussels, which are empty, as you can see. And this is a close-up of the shrimp I was telling you about before. But there is another environment which is even more strange. You can see this picture, and this picture is taken underwater, and you can see a lake underwater with a surface that can be seen, water underwater. It's actually is not water, it's a brine suspension. It's very salty water, and they are called brine pools, and they are formed when salt seeps in the water in special environments. They are deadly, as you can see from this picture. They are totally deadly. If any animal ventures into this strange lake, it dies of chemical shock. But on the shores, there live a community, and you can see here, I will show you only a few photographs of this video from Blue Planet BBC. And this eel will try to
Cutthroat
enter.
eels, scavengers, come to the shores of the Brine Lake in search of something edible. Some even venture into the brine. Spending too long in it can send an eel into toxic shock. Its only hope is to rise above it. It manages to escape.
Well, this time the eel, which is a common scavenger in deep sea, managed to escape, but the brine pools are completely deadly, and they are wonderful, yet totally alien, and yet they exist in our deep sea areas, pretty much everywhere. And the final environment I will show you before a special conclusion is the whale fall, because large animals live in the sea, and they, well, they die like pretty much any other organisms on Earth. And when they die, they actually create very small, very contained, self-contained ecosystems, which are quite different from any other thing in the, on the living Earth. They are called whale fall.
Super cool. We are in the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and we've just come across a whale fall. It's like Christmas for deep sea explorers right now. But you are part of exploration in real time right now. You are seeing and observing and making these calls with us just at the same speed as our scientists.
Great shot.
I'm gonna say this looks like the rostrum is slightly arched, not moderately arched.
Yeah, this will be
Great shot. Yeah, so the arc of the jawbone there, and then connecting back on the left, you have the ribs. You can see the spinal column, spinal cord, vertebrae starting to go down the middle.
There's still some vascular tubes.
There's so many animals here.
They're all saying, I love whale fall.
Covered in scavengers. It's a happy day to be an octopus.
What are we thinking? This is 4 to 5 meters long.
You can see them. There's sort of a red internal cavity that you see with the white around it, and then it flares at the end, and you can see a couple different.
Mezzo.
So many amphipods on there.
So those are the bone worms?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You know, we put out the alert to a lot of collaborators and other scientists within the sanctuary network and within this area who could, you know, help us pull in some more detail.
What's really neat is the baleen is still there.
Yeah, that may offer us some clues, right? Baleen is the filter feeding structure for whales.
That's right. So this is definitely a baleen whale or a mysticete. So it's not a toothed whale. that narrows it down quite a bit.
Listen along with us, watch along with us, send in your questions. We want to know what you want to know about this brand new discovery.
Whale falls are actually a trove of information, not only for zoologists and marine biologists, but also to CSI investigators, because allow me the word, behavior of our corpse in the water is quite important to be learned in order to solve several, well, not very beautiful, but interesting mysteries, just like killing or finding corpses in water, or even air disasters and so on, shipwrecks and the like. So it's a science which is not very happy, but it's quite interesting. And you can see there are very different species of animals living among the bones. And we know that this kind of communities happen to be already very established since the Jurassic, because we have ichthyosaur, that is lizardfish bones, which sport signs of the Osedax worms. And the Osedax worms are, this is an experiment about an alligator, but it works exactly the same. And these pink reddish things you see on the bones are worms called Osedax, the zombie worms. They are not actually zombies, but they eat away the bone. And all around you can see the serpent sea stars, the brittle stars. Every whale fall is unique because each whale fall has its own population of different animals, and they contribute to the special kind of environment that is the bottom of the sea. And we come to the conclusion of this very brief excursion, because studying deep sea life and deep sea environment is quite important for exobiologists. That is, to those scientists who try to understand if there's life on other planets. If a planet or a satellite, for instance, Europa, which is one of the moons of Jupiter, if a planet is geologically active and it has water, and Europa has water beneath the ice, then it most possibly will have the same kind of environment that happened to be on Earth like 2 billion years ago. And so it is possible that we could find signs of similar biodiversity, bacterial biodiversity, I mean, on alien planets. The concept of life on other planets is quite interesting because we imagine it is based on our own life, but is not sure at all. So exobiologists try to work with marine biologists to understand better the possibilities of using the knowledge of the abyss to better understand alien life forms. And so we know that there is life, there may be life under the sea or the oceans of Europa. And it is possible they would not like, as Beatrice, a biologist, says, they would not really like to hang with us. So it's quite important to find aliens before they find us. And marine biology, especially the study of deep sea, is very important. But even deep sea is polluted by men. I have seen raw images with Coca-Cola cans and other plastic things on the bottom at about 4,000 meters of depth, 3,000 meters of depth. So humans are modifying, changing an environment that they don't even know. And this is quite a problem because, as my colleague Francesco will show you in a minute, the sea, the ocean, is quite a complex ecosystem with lots of very interesting and unexpected surprises. And we humans in this new geological age are totally changing the face of our planet, even in environments about which we don't know a single thing. So I will pass word to my colleague Francesco to show you even more interesting and surprising things from the depths of the ocean.
Thank you, Marco. So can you see my screen? Nice. So now I will show you how we can acquire data from very deep sea. How Marco showed you wonderful videos and pictures of crazy animals and creatures. So starting with this video. So can you believe this is an underwater telescope that we have in the Mediterranean Sea, built by the National Institute of Nuclear Physics in Italy? And the name of the project is called KM3NET project, and is a astrophysics telescope that we are building offshore Sicily to study neutrinos particles. And we started acquiring data for this project in the deep sea of the Ionian Sea in 2005. We deployed many different stations, cable stations, and one of my work was based on the analysis of acoustic data, underwater sounds in very deep sea. And we discovered a lot of different species of marine mammals, so whales, for example, sperm whales in the Gulf of Catania, and fin whales, and many species of dolphins. So just recording sounds from the deep sea, it is possible to acquire information about large marine mammals. I'm Francesco Caruso, as Marco said before, and I'm a scientist of Stazione, the same department of Marco, and I work on underwater acoustics, or what we call marine bioacoustics. If we see a spectrogram of the noise and ambient noise of the Mediterranean Sea in very deep sea water, here we are at more than 2,000 meters of depth. This is a spectrogram. In the x-axis we have the time, y-axis we have the frequency, and the scale of color is the intensity of the sound. Most of the signal is characterized by anthropogenic noise. So what we see is they are air guns, seismic prospection system that we use to find oil on the seabed. There is a lot of noise from ship noise, so marine traffic. And as you can see, around 20 Hertz, this rectangle, we have different calls from fin whales. So can you imagine which is the underwater soundscape of large whales in our environment, the Mediterranean Sea? And that's why acoustic waves, because acoustic waves travel extremely well underwater for their physical properties. So the same pressure that we produce in the atmosphere create a sound, a vibration, a sound that has less intensity in air compared to the ocean. So sounds can travel very far in the ocean, and that's also why marine mammals, for example, but not only whales and dolphins, but different marine organisms, they have evolved to use sounds for their main biological functions. So the sound propagates very well in the ocean. And what we are measuring now is an increase of the general noise of the oceans around the world. This is a picture of the ship lanes of one minute in the actual marine traffic scenario around the world. So you can see how many ships we have around, and what we are measuring is an increase of 6 dB every 10 years. dB is in logarithmic scale, so that means that we are measuring a double level of noise every 10 years in the oceans around the world, and the situation is almost the same everywhere until very exclusive for very remote places. The Mediterranean Sea, in this case, due to the Suez Canal, now is one of the main marine traffic route in the world. So the level of noise in the Mediterranean Sea are increasing very, very fast. Most of the noise comes from big ships, commercial ships. This kind of noise can propagate for hundreds of kilometers. And the interesting stuff that from the noise of a ship, we can also characterize the single vessel. Different kind of vessel produce very similar sounds. So not only for marine animals, but also for human activities, we can identify the different activities from the analysis of the acoustic data. Another source of noise, as I told you before, we have in the Mediterranean, especially in the last decade, we have many seismic prospection for oil and gas industry, and these are the signals emitted by this activity. These are very explosions. So they use air pressure gun on the surface, you see in this picture, and every 8 seconds, many of these create a huge explosion close to the surface, and from the reflection of the sounds to the water column until the seabed, they identify areas with oil inside the seabed. Here you can see a picture, graphics of this process, and as you see, if we have animals like dolphins and whales in the water column traveling or just communicating by each other, for sure these sounds can have very strongly effects on their life, not only in creating complex communication system, but also on their hearing system with problem with their health, and also sometimes if the source of noise is very close and near to the animal, we can see the death of the animal. In the Mediterranean Sea, we have only one mysticity whale, that is fin whale. In this case, I will show you the 2 main vocalizations of this species. We call this the 20 Hz calls, 2 different types, type A and type B. And in this graph, this data come always from the station of the INFN in the Gulf of Catania, and from the first deployment of our seismic hydrophone, so a microphone used for underwater sounds. We recorded the species in the Gulf of Catania all over the year, but there was a big gap between November and February. And what we discovered, that in that month there was a seismic prospection activity offshore Greece, so very far from Sicily, but still have a great influence in the presence of the species in the Gulf of Catania, hundreds of kilometers from Sicily. And here, this is a very, very particular sound. It's infrasound, so we cannot hear these passes. To hear these sounds, we need to accelerate the speed of the file and increase the frequency, okay, in the human hearing band. As you see, we have, in the period between November and February, at the end, we found many days with argon pulses. So there was a seismic prospection activity offshore Greece that was influencing our population of whales that pass through or spend time in the Ionian Sea, offshore Sicily. If we look at the general environment and general sound, what we call soundscape, the soundscape of the marine environment, we have many different sources of sounds. There are three main categories: what we call geophony, all of the sounds that come from natural phenomena, wind, earthquakes, ice melting. There are then biophony, biological sounds, all the sounds that come from marine animals, so crustaceans, fishes, marine mammals. And then we have the anthropophony, so all the sounds produced by human activities, as we said before. So in this nice picture, you can see how many sources of sounds we have in the ocean, and that the ocean is not silent. We have many sources. The main field techniques that we use for monitoring sounds in the ocean is called passive acoustic monitoring. It's the simple process of record and analyze audio signals. There are two main field of sciences in this that use PAM: bioacoustics and ecoacoustics. Bioacoustics is more related to the single animal, single species, and how the animals use sounds to recognize the environment, to communicate, and in general for their life. And ecoacoustics is more related to the general trend of the different categories, so geophony, biophony, and anthropophony, in the evolution of the ecosystem. And this technique is considered a type of environmental monitoring, so it can be used also to monitor the environment. I don't know, in the Mediterranean, for an example, could be wind farm. Now in the Mediterranean, we have many projects related to the installation of offshore wind farms. PAM is one of the main techniques to study and monitor these areas. Who are the loudest animals in the ocean? Immediately, all of you will think about whales. The whales, they're big, they produce a lot of sounds. But the loudest animals in the ocean are very, very small shrimps. The family of the shrimps that we call snapping shrimps. There are hundreds of species around the world. They live especially in very shallow waters, and they have a specialized claw that is used for sound production, as this video will show you.
Some shrimp are unusually scrappy fighters. Pistol shrimp and a few dozen others can snap their claws shut at ultra-fast speeds. The claws close so fast that it boils the water around them, creating tiny air bubbles. The force of the water pressure crushing the bubbles generates a shockwave that stuns the shrimp's prey.
And then we have many different fishes that produce sounds. We have other crustaceans, for example, lobster, in this case, a lobster. And naturally, we have marine mammals. So whales and seal, starting from humpback whale. Killer whale. Weather seal. So if we want to have a focus about cetacean, just few information. Mississippi whales, they produce only social sounds. These sounds are usually in low frequencies. They have short duration. We know they are regional dialects. That means that the same species in different geographical areas use specific dialects. And these kind of sounds have long distance propagation. That's because whales need to communicate with a conspecific for hundreds of kilometers in the ocean in some cases. Odontocetes whales, they use sounds both for social sounds, but also for echolocation. Social sounds usually are wide frequency range. There are species specific differences. So also in this case, we have regional dialects, but the very interesting stuff, they use sounds also to recognize the environment. So they produce high and broadband pulses, high frequency and broad frequencies, and broadband pulses that they emit to focalize a specific target. And from the echo that they receive, they can understand the shape, the size, the density of the object focalized. In this case, we see a dolphin, but also deep diver species. And this video is very interesting because about deep divers, this is a video of a sperm whale, a simulation of a sperm whale, of a deep dive of sperm whale, and why the animal produce these sounds and how to use the sounds to find prey. Approaching the target, the inter-click interval, so the time interval between consecutive clicks is always shorter, as you see in this video. Until the sperm whale catch the big squid. And sperm whales don't only use sounds for to search food, but also to communicate. Now we know the sperm whales have different dialects. For example, Mediterranean sperm whales, they are a specific subpopulation that we identified genetically, and they use a specific dialect that is from the Mediterranean area. As I told you before, most of the anthropogenic noise that we introduce in the ocean have a strong effect on the life of this animal, like changes in sound production, behavioral changes, masking, so covering the communication space of the animals, and also in the worst cases, temporary or permanent damage to the auditory system. And now we know this from many scientific articles and many also newspaper information. And so my suggestion for all the people like to live the ocean is choose for sailing. Sailing is always a good solution for a sustainable use of the ocean, because we use the power of the wind for navigation and we don't introduce noise from our engine. And I give you also information about this no-profit association that I'm vice president, that we work on soundscape, and we try to find links between science and art, in this case related to ocean sounds, creating music with using natural sounds that we record in the ocean, with the idea that only art and science make us suspect of the existence of life to a higher level, and maybe also instill awe thereof. And this is a sentence from Beethoven that I think it's very nice to remember in these days, how is going our planet with the human activities. And I will close today my talk with a composition that we did using sounds from the ocean, and is a specific music that we created in occasion or during an event versus the seismic prospection in the Mediterranean Sea. So this is my contact if you want to write me. And thank you, Rita, to invite us.
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Really
Also for
is.
me. Thank you very much.
Veramente
You're welcome.
commovente, commovente. Tutto. È una scoperta incredibile, cioè
Bellissimo.
ci sentiamo tutti piccoli piccoli perché non solo perché non abbiamo cognizione di tutto ciò, ma perché ci sentiamo coinvolti in una generale devastazione di tutto ciò e quindi è questo che dobbiamo combattere.
Sì.
Grazie Francesco tantissimo, grazie Marco. Qualche ragazzo vuol dire qualcosa? Mi piacerebbe sentire qualche commento dei giovani.
Yes, let me say only a few things. Yes, thank you for both your presentations. Me, personally, yes, I was ignoring many of the things that you presented us today. So it is really an interesting experience. I don't know, yes, if our participants have something to ask, some curiosity, something that you want to maybe explore a little bit more. Otherwise, I have a question, but I want to give the possibility to our participants before. Because if not, maybe it's...
I think Eleonora, she has a question.
Yes, Eleonora, please.
Personally, thank you to Marco and Francesco, and personally, I need some time to process these emotions here. And secondly, can we have some spoiler about new project of Station Hampton Dorn? Because according to me, the most interesting aspect, according to my field, I graduated in cultural heritage, is to see how technology could be used in environmental aspect. And firstly, I wanted to know how many.
We lost Leonora. Let's wait a few seconds. I think that, yes, she will try to reconnect. Okay, while waiting, Eleonora, because she's driving me over the phone, if there are not any other questions, I would like to ask you, well, we understood that the sea, the deep sea also, it's a really noisy environment, not only because of the animals, but also for the human activity we do over the sea, over the ocean. So the first reflection is, I think that we should try to eliminate this noise caused by human activity, for sure, for the well-being of the animals, but at the same time, will not this condition, it is possible that it can become also a risk for animal, because they probably today, because of the noise, they, how to say, they can recognize a danger. What about if the human activity will become extremely silent? It should be a risk as well.
Yes, for sure. But, you know, animals, in this case, cetaceans, they are very, very smart animals. They have a great culture. And our goal for now is trying to reduce noise from ship traffic, for example. I can give you a few examples. We are trying to reduce the speed of the vessels or avoid specific areas that we call hotspot for marine mammals. So the area where they aggregate for reproduction or for feeding in specific seasons. And this is what we have to do immediately, especially for endangered species. We have many of them, they are endangered or critical endangered, and we have very, you know, critical situation with hundreds of animals for some species all over the world. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And knowledge is the most important thing that we need. Without knowledge, is it impossible to do real conservation? And yeah. So I don't know about some. Yeah, I think human activities can be less noisy, but I don't know if we will have, as you say, the problem that is too silent then would be impossible from the animals. No, I think they're super smart animals. And what we see studying them, they can acquire information pretty fast. They change also. I told you about dialects, for example. Dialects are not static for marine mammal. They are very fluid, they change. When one animal from one population, from one group, move from another with a different dialects, with time, he or she will modify the dialect of the new group. And you know, for many species of fishes, we also now have different studies that show that they are not, as you said, stupid. They're not like stupid animals. And so we need to move on from our vision of the animal world and try to create an environment that is more reasonable from them, for them.
Great, thank you. So Eleonora, it's on you now.
Sorry, technical problem. My question was about financial question. Who financed your project? Because I think a project like this is very, very, very expensive. So I would know something about financial aspect of the project. Above all, the last part you have shown to us, so art and technology.
We are a public institute of science, of research in Italy, so most of our funding arrived from the national calls, like national proposals. We have very few funding now, like fixed funding, something that arrive every year for our research, but we write proposals at national level, and now most of them are at European level. So very high competitive. Okay. In that case, the project that I showed you about the underwater telescope, for example, is a multidisciplinary project. So together with the INFN, the National Institute of Nuclear Physics, there is also INNGV, the Institute of Volcanology of Italy, there are SZN, so Anton Doorn, for example. So many different institutes with also with different goals in science, geophysics, marine biology, astrophysics, put together their force to move on with a very, very expensive project. For all the science outreach, the non-profit organization, we have no funding. So I'm in this case, specific case, I'm vice president of this organization, Econ Science, and we work in collaboration of the Stazione Doorn, my institute, and other scientific institution, but we are no profit. So we have no funding. We work with Legambiente, WWF, Sea Shepherd, all of these other big on ONG, but we have not so much funding. We do project with schools, events, workshops, and now at the end of this month we are organizing an event, a specific event about sounds at the Aquarium Doorn that now is sold out already. But you know, we will do more. We are trying to organize more of these kinds of events. The aquarium of Stazione Anton Doorn in Naples. That is also the oldest public aquarium in Europe.
Thank you for answering.
You're welcome, Manuel.
I don't know if there are any other questions for our experts. Something that you would like to ask, to know better. Francesco, sorry, the last song that you presented us, it was made only with the sound of the oceans, or it is something that there are also instrumental parts?
There are also instruments.
Okay.
Yeah. And in that specific composition that we call In Maris Immensitate, we have sounds from different taxa. We have shrimps, seals, whales, dolphins. We have rain. So the sound of rain from the sea, on the sea surface, and then we have argans. I don't know if you heard some. There are these big explosions. They are the argans, and so different kind of sources, sound sources in the ocean, plus instruments.
Yes, in terms of percentage. Which is the percentage of sea sounds, and
most of the sounds are from the sea.
Yes, it was exactly what I was imagining, but just to better understand how many sounds, how many production.
Many of them. I think more than 20 species of animals. There are different species of dolphins, different species of whales, and snapping shrimp, fishes. Yeah, there are many species. And most of them, for sure, the sounds of the animals are all from marine organisms. And most of the sounds are from the ocean. Only some instruments.
I want to thank you, Marco and Francesco, for your special seminar. Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. and we've been quite happy to participate. And I think we'll probably meet if you come down to visit our aquarium.
Do we have other questions? Do we have other people who want to say something? No.
Vabbè, volevo solo, a parte ringraziare Francesco e Marco, la sensazione che io adesso provo, non solo che è quella di un senso di protezione e di maggiore diffusione di queste bellissime cose che ci avete detto. E volevo sapere da loro, invece, per unirci, per far sì che si possa, attraverso il mare, trovare una nuova energia per una nuova visione della tutela dell'ambiente, così. Ecco, quale può essere la strada che voi insomma vedete e che potete anche consigliare a noi per agire insieme su questo scopo, per la realizzazione di questo scopo?
Yes, let me translate for our yes. So Rita was asking if I understood well and very briefly, what can we do as normal citizens? What can we do once we have now acquired these incredible things, and how important they are, how important is the life under the sea? What can we do in order to participate to your work, and what can you suggest us in this sense?
And Marco, you wanna talk? Or I can answer. And for example, me and Marco, as part of our department that is involved on public engagement, we do a lot of projects for new generations. And we work a lot with schools. Our museum is open every day for the schools of Naples, but not only from Naples, because new generations are our hope. It's much more difficult to transmit ecological awareness to all, I don't want to say old people, but yeah. And for example, with Marco, we are working on the development of a very nice video game about the ocean sounds that kids can use to acquire knowledge, scientific knowledge, at the same time play, and why not, at the end they will be more careful about noise or about, and we do this for plastic in the oceans. We do this for many things at Stazione. So from my point of view, what we can do is really concentrate our effort on new generations, because they are the future, and when it is possible, also on politics, because at the end, who manage the big decisions are not normal people, are not normal, are not normal citizens, as I don't know his name, as he said before. So and all our institute, we are also involved in different projects that they have output also on management, environmental management. Marco, yeah.
I'd like to add a couple of things. As Francesco said, we do work with what once was called citizen science, but it should now be more correctly called participative science. I have shown you those two videos at the beginning of my presentation, just to show how interesting and unexpected discoveries are not always made by scientists, but by ordinary people. And this is the first step, because those fishermen did not attack the sharks, did not kill the sharks, but recognized them as a rare species and reported them to scientists. And so scientists managed to publish a very interesting paper, which came out incidentally only last week. And this is the first part we do, actually, participative science. As Francesco said before, knowledge is the key. And we try to facilitate knowledge personally with music and with games, because it's my hobbies as well. But music, for instance, has been demonstrated as being the best way to activate memory and activate emotions. There are lots of publications about that. And so if you try to tell people via common means like music, like video games, like books, cartoons, comics, how bad our state is currently, because oceans are in a very, very grave danger. And if oceans switch off, the planet switches off. So I think that the best thing to do is to involve people. And this is exactly what we do at Stazione Zoologica, because what is important is not to keep science into ivory towers, kept away from people, but to bring science outside and let people do science. Only with participation and involvement, we can raise the awareness of people towards environmental problems. And only through that, we can sensibilize the decision makers. I know that they, as Francesco told, they actually rule, but we have some power to change it. And if we all are aware of what is happening, and we try to sensitize, make them more sensible to the fact that we are actually losing our only planet. I work very, very little about exobiology, and I know there are lots of terrestrial planets, but they are at like 125 light years away from us. We don't have a plan B for our planet. So what we do as scientists is to try to involve people and let them tell our decision makers that we only have one planet, and we have to fight to keep this planet as healthy as possible for all of us.
I think that in May, when we go in Naples to Dorn, Institute Dorn, we can speak, if you want, about the possible collaboration with our association, and we can try to find the possibility for school, perhaps, and young people for this knowledge and awareness about this problem. And I hope that's possible to find the collaboration with you. Merci. Thank you.
Good. If we don't have any other questions, I suggest that we can say goodbye to our speakers, to our guests. Very interesting. I suppose that, yes, we will have further re-elaboration of all these information. And yes, so thank you.
Keep in touch. Bye bye.
for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you for
bye.
inviting us.
We
And
hope to see you in Naples and also
hopefully, yes.
work together with photography if it's possible.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you for everything. It's been
Thank
nice.
you. Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Marco.
See you in
Thank
Naples.
you very much,
Grazie.
Marco and Francesco.
Baci.
Ciao.
Ok.
Bellissimo seminario. Veramente bello, bellissimo.
Sì. Sono bravissimi questi ragazzi.
Uno dei più belli che abbiamo fatto,
Sì.
secondo me. E anche pertinenti allo